So yeah, this is the double vit here, or double wit, depending how you pronounce it. But this is your traditional style, Belgian style vit, where you have the orange peel, you have your coriander, Belgian yeast strain. It's going to give you a really nice spicy, fruity notes going on in it. This has like a citrusy, orangey peel characteristic because it has that fruit added into it.
Okay.
This is kind of an example. If the brewer wants you to have a fruit characteristic, they'd add it into the beer already. Where you don't, unlike the Hefeweizen, you don't have to jam a lemon into it to get a lemon characteristic. I'm actually making a saison tomorrow, where I'm doing both lemon peel and orange peel to add to get you that citrusy note. But if you're adding it in the brewing process, you don't kill your head retention. You don't change the flavor of the beer. You add that characteristic how it's supposed to be. I traditionally believe every beer shouldn't have fruit in it.
That's how we feel too.
Man law.
That's what he said. That's very good. Wow. See, I like the coriander isn't at all overpowering, like at all. And that's the way I like it. Like that's the way
coriander, it isn't actually coriander, it's from the strain yeast, correct?
Oh, well, this one we do add some coriander.
Do you add some to it?
I know some bit ones are like
some of them are really powerful. That's nice, man.
I mean, like all of our spice beers, we really try to have them really well balanced.
See, that's very, that's easy. That's very balanced. Like that's, like some of them just have so much coriander, like it. I don't know.
I know you're gonna rate that a 9.
I'm definitely gonna rate that.
I'm gonna give that an 8 along with the other one.
This is very good.
See, overall, we're in search of the perfect pint. In order to get a 10 on a scale.
You might end up in Germany. I don't know.
It has to be the perfect beer, but everybody's perfect beer is different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like me, I'm more towards the reds and the Irish and style beers, and she's more like the ones with the wits and
but I like
summery type
reds. I like
beers.
everything. I like all beers, really.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, even being a brewer, you probably feel like it takes a lot to get you the perfect pint, even though you brew it. I would imagine you must feel that way.
The perfect pint changes day to day.
Exactly.
Depending
on your mood, it's true.
Well, I mean, everyone asks, what's your favorite beer? And it's like, well, what time of the day is it? What am I eating? What time of the year is it? What's the last beer I just had? Those are all questions that go through my head before I pour myself.
That's true, though.
Because like if you're in the fall, it's colder out. You like those Oktoberfest or like a nice malty beer. Summertime, it's 400 degrees out. You want something light, easy drinking. You're eating a steak. You want some nice roasty kind of malt characteristics to kind of balance that out. You're having something spicy. You want that IPA, so those hop characteristics really pop kind of the spice characteristic of the food. So I mean, there's just so many different factors that go into what my favorite beer is. So basically my answer usually is the one in my hand. That's my favorite beer, because otherwise I wouldn't be drinking it, right?
What's next?
Take you to Belgium here with a little a saison l'été, or a summertime saison, kind of the traditional kind of what a saison should be, really letting that yeast showcase really high fermentation temperatures. So all of the spice notes and the fruit notes from this are coming from the yeast strain. Traditionally, these beers were made for like the saisonniers or the seasonal workers. It was kind of a lunchtime beer because it was safe drinking water. Basically, we're looking at. But if you didn't have good beer, you'd lose all your farm workers. So they go to a different farmery. So like every farmhouse brewed a different beer. They tried to make it as best as possible. So this is kind of like my take on like a summertime saison. Where all the kind of the fruit and the spice notes are coming from the yeast strain.
Well, that's good too. Oh my God.
Now, what would the alcohol content be on this? Is still light?
This one's a little higher. It's up to 6%. So it's a little bit higher ABV.
But it tastes like.
But it's not that huge. Like a lot of saisons now, you see them at like 7.5, 8, 9%. They're starting to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I even made a petite saison a little while back where I did like a 4% saison that turned out pretty nice. I tweaked a few little things the next time I make it around, but that was last summer I pulled that one off. So,
this is very good.
The saison style seems like a little bit more of a champagne flavor to it, like more bubbly. It seems like.
Just it does. If you look at it, you can see a lot of bubbles rising out.
So yeah, traditionally, I mean, the saison style does have a little bit more effervescence, definitely a little higher carbonation level.
That's the word I was looking for.
That's very good.
But
oh my gosh.
That really helps dry it out in the finish. Like that champagne, how you drink it's really dry in the finish because you get all that carbonic acid playing on your tongue.
Right.
Similar idea, a little higher carbonation level. You get all those CO2 bubbles pop in. It really kind of dries out the tongue as you swallow.
That's very good.
Oh, that's delicious.
You wouldn't even know it was like 6% because it doesn't. It tastes very light, just like a, like the other beers that were poured. You wouldn't know that it was much different.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, I give that one an 8 too.
That's very good. All right, you're stuck on 8 and I'm stuck on 9.
Yeah.
I still give it.
What do I gotta do to get a 9 from you?
I know, he's a tough one.
I don't know.
He's a tough one to crack, I guess.
I don't know if that was delicious. I like
That's
the sea
very
songs,
good.
so they're a neat beer. It's an
No, you
interesting
really realize a lot of
style.
people don't brew them now.
Yeah.
They're not very popular.
I've seen a few.
Are they hard to brew? Is that why like a lot of places
No,
don't
I mean,
brew
you
them?
can do a higher temperature, right? Than like, what is like an
A lot of
ale? It's like
places don't brew 'em.
65, 70 degrees.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like the Belgian styles, you can do a little warmer. Is that why?
Yeah, I mean, they still are near these, but their yeast strain traditionally has been brewed at a little bit higher temperature. That's where it just likes to be. Because you're at that higher temperature, the yeast is working a lot faster, producing a lot more flavors during fermentation. So you get a lot of flavors from that yeast strain. Where I mean, kind of like you get your traditional ales in that 65 to 70 range. They're still printing pretty fast, but not as fast as the Belgian. So like your traditional kind of pale ales and whatnot. There's not a lot of yeast flavor. There's some, but there's not a lot of yeast flavor really coming from that yeast. Then you get into the lagers, which are really cold,
Yeah, like
fermented.
55.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Something like that.
And I mean, because they're so much on the colder side, they're just much more deliberate. They go very slow, and they really just convert that sugar to alcohol. So because they're going so slow, they don't produce a lot of flavors. That's why your lagers traditionally are light, easy drinking, crisp.
And then smooth.
Smoother because of it, because they don't have that kind of that yeast characteristic, because they're been lagered and cold fermented.
Ah, I got you. Okay.
All right, what's next on the agenda?
Yeah, so we're into the wild thing here.
Wow, dang. Oh, yeah.
Sam Jackson, right?
Yeah. Sam Jackson.
So this is a wild rice beer. So it's a kind of take about 10% of the grist profile, add in wild rice. I mean, the big macro breweries will use rice to make their beer. They have to pre-gelatinize it and yada, yada, yada. But basically they added at probably 30 to 40% of their grist profile. They say it's to add like a light, easy drinking crispness to the beer, which it does, but it's also cheaper than malted barley. So they're using it to be able to make the beer a little bit cheaper, make a little bit more profit off the millions upon millions of cans they make a day. This I actually used wild rice, which is even more expensive than barley,
Yeah,
but at 10% of it, it still has a nice crispness, a nice like dries out the finish. But because it's the wild rice, you get almost like a nuttiness from it, which is kind of a really unique flavor that you're not going to get a lot. There's a lot of sterling hops in this beer as well, and the way that the sterling, kind of noble sterling hops plays with that nuttiness, like you almost get like a cherry pit sweetness. It's really kind of unique style.
Interesting. This is called Wild Thing.
Wild thing.
All
Wow.
I think of is that song.
You make my heart sing.
Oh, that's good too.
Wow. Man, you got some
He's
great,
gonna be stuck on
great
that. I'm telling
recipes,
you.
man.
These excellent. They're all very, very good.
I don't think I've tried
I
a lot
have
of
a different
these.
taste. I like it though. It's
Yeah, it's the wild rice really comes.
Yeah, that's what it is. The nuttiness. You can taste like the nuttiness.
I like
It's
that
almost like a-
nutty aftertaste.
It has like a
yeah.
brown ale. Kind of like a brown ale.
But if you look at the color, because you get that nuttiness of a brown ale, but
But it's
without the
white.
roasted malt characteristic in it. So
Right,
it's
so it's not
kind of a
brown.
juxtaposition where you get a little bit of brown ale nutty flavors that you normally expect in this
The
brown
brown
ale.
ale,
You look
right.
at it, it's golden in color and pale ale, so it kind of has that fun.
That's excellent.
That's
very
interesting.
good.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Yeah. All right,
That is-
dude.
you do taste
got
cherry.
me.
Is it like-
This one's a 9.
Do you taste?
I like this
Oh,
one, man.
yes.
This one's
Do you
definitely
taste the
9.
cherry a little bit? I do taste cherry.
Yeah, like the cherry.
It just makes
though,
it
like if you,
the second time.
it's like that, you know, the seed in the cherry, man.
Yeah.
It's like that. Like after you eat the cherry, and you get
I
that in
can
your
taste
mouth.
it. It took me
Yeah,
a
I
couple
love
sips
that.
to taste it, but I taste it. That's good.
Yeah, because I love cherries.
That is very, very good.
Wow, that is wicked interesting, man.
It's like you have- I
it's a
taste
very like complex flavors to it too, because you get all kinds of different flavors going on
Yeah.
at once.
I taste the nut and then I
Look at
taste the
it red.
cherry. Like all like within like you know what I mean, right after each other. It's
Oh, that's
good.
incredible. Hey, cheers.
Yeah, cheers
That's
to
a
that.
great one, man.
Very good. All right.
So yeah, this next beer we're trying here, this is the black bit. So kind of taking your traditional, we tried a little bit of the Vit too, or the Imperial Vit a little earlier. So similar characteristics of that with the kind of coriander, the orange peel, but changing the malt profile up completely, getting more kind of the darker malts, more chocolatey notes.
It smells like a porter. Like,
It
smells like a porter.
Well, that's a great kind of relation where it's like they're dark malts, but they're not super roasty malts. So you get that dark malt characteristic without the super like burnt acrid characteristic.
Okay, yeah.
So I went for more like the chocolatey dark malts to kind of balance out with the orange flavors.
Okay.
So kind of I was thinking, you break open one of those orange things at Christmas.
Yes,
So that's how I was like, oh, chocolate and orange. All right, there we go. So this is kind of like put it into a glass.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of what I was going for with it. But yeah, it's a black bit.
I love those things. I haven't had one of those in years. And it's Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, it tastes similar to it definitely tastes the orangey and the like mixed together. It doesn't taste like a porter, really. You know what I mean?
Because it looks like it should taste like a porter.
It smells like a porter.
It smells like a porter, but then
you
kind of that aftertaste of that post-nasal is coming through with that orangey. It kind of goes with chocolate flavors.
I taste it after, but it does, when you first go, you're like, oh, it's going to be a porter. And when you smell it and look at it, not good.
That is like very good. That's the black bit.
I've never tried a black one ever, to be honest with you.
The truth is, I don't want to claim that I invented the style, but I've never heard of it before.
I've never heard of it. Me neither, never heard of it. All right, I'm sticking to my 9.
I'm going to give this a 9 myself. I really like this. It's got a different...
It's very good.
It's a different
You don't really like
look
fruit.
on 2 different beers, man. It's like mixing them together, and I like that. It's a different beer altogether.
You don't really like the fruit even, but it tastes.
But it's so
like,
subtle. It's like, you taste it, but it's not overpowering.
Exactly.
Like when you put a lemon in a beer. You know what I mean? That is, or a lime in a beer.
It just takes over and overpowers all the other
You
flavors.
lose all the flavor of the beer.
I do
This
all the
is just
fruit,
nice
it's like
and subtle.
fruit.
Yeah. I like,
But I like it without fruit too. This tastes like totally different than
So and that's one of those things where your eyes kind of play little tricks on you. You look at something, you're expecting one thing, but when you drink it, you get totally different.
and then you're surprised. You're like, oh yes, nice.
That's very, very good.
That is excellent, dude. Here we go.
Oh, okay. I tried a couple of different people's companies. Name names.
So this is a Portsmouth Brewery barley wine. 11% barley wine, so definitely a lot of big ABV, but there's a lot of residual sweetness into it. That's going to really kind of help round out that alcohol burn. So it's not going to taste like it's high in alcohol, but there's going to be some nice raisin notes, some nice like dark fruit, plummy kind of flavors going on from the different malts we used. And I kind of straddled that line between an American barley wine and a traditional British style barley wine. We used 2 different yeast strains, used both British and American malts, both British and American hops, and kind of followed that through all the way through to kind of get the best of both worlds. So this is just traditionally was my first professional recipe back in 2008. This is probably the 3rd or 4th iteration of it since then, and we've been tweaking it ever since, and I really think this is probably the best version of it thus far.
Now, what's the difference between a barley wine and just a traditional beer? What makes it? Is it the way it's fermented or aged? Or
back in England, the brewers they brewed a party barrel system, which is like they'd mash in their grains and then run it all off into one kettle. Then they just dump more water into their hop into their back into their mash tun and run that off into a second kettle. So that first runnings was all really sugary, dense, thick wort with a lot of fermentable sugars in it. And your second runnings were a lot thinner, and you made kind of a smaller beer with that. So that first runnings would all of a sudden make these 8-9% really high ABV beers, comparison to the traditional 3-4% beers of the time, or table beers as they were called. But that first runnings, making this really high ABV beer, I don't know, the king or whoever decided that they couldn't name this a beer because it was too high in alcohol. So they named it a wine made from barley. In theory, it's all the same as a beer. Same. There's no grapes. It's all malt. It's all hops. It's all yeast. It's all water. It's a beer through and through. It just happens to be really high ABV. So way back in the day, they decided you have to call this a wine. So they called it a wine made from barley. But then now that name is kind of stuck throughout the ages. So it's called a barley wine style ale. Is its official title.
Right.
Kind of like that style. So it's just this style of beer is traditionally called the barley wine because that's its, just like a beer is called an IPA or beer is called an ESB because that's like the name of the beer.
I have to say, I tried a lot of these, and I love wine too.
Yeah.
And I'm a big beer person and a big wine person. A lot of them I don't like necessarily. Not don't like. I guess some of them just are not good. Like realistically, they just taste so. This will be a good test. This will be a good.
Sorry, I've gotten all 9s thus far. Let's see what you get.
Actually,
don't influence.
Don't influence. I want to try it herself.
Wow, no, that's actually good.
that is.
That's one of the best ones. I'm not just saying that. That's one of the.
But I'm trying to kiss up.
No, I'm not.
That is one of the best
I
ones.
have tried them. I'll give you even this
I'm
one.
trying like
From
3 of
other companies in Portsmouth. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And I don't hate much stuff. Like I'm like very good with tastes and beers and wines and everything else and drinks in general. But I just that's very good. There's an overpowering. This isn't overpowering.
And this is one of those beers too that like this will like if you get a bottle of it, you can actually age it. And it will sell it. You can cellar age it for a good year, 2, maybe 3 years, and the flavors will meld and change, and the beer will just totally change as of how it tastes.
I can taste more like it's mellower.
I can taste the raisiny
The ones I've tried were too much, like too. I don't know. They were just too
strong. I thought.
I guess you know how you said that alcohol
that
taste. You try to take the alcohol taste out a little bit so it doesn't taste like pure alcohol or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's where they didn't take enough out. Like this has.
Well, yeah, that helps basically this beer is one of the longer beers that are take to make. I mean, we have it conditioning for 3 months before I even put it on tap. So I let it really mellow, let that alcohol burn really mellow. A lot of the malt flavors start coming into themselves after about 3 months. Some of the hop sharpness really mellows out too. So you like actually pre-age it before I even release it.
So is that what keeps the alcohol taste but being
exactly.
drastic?
As one of those higher ABV like imperial stouts or an imperial like a barley wine or a wheat wine, as you age those over time, that alcohol burn, kind of like you took a shot of vodka, that alcohol burn starts mellowing and starts going away. Your hop characteristic actually starts going away too, so that's why it's not good to age IPAs. IPAs drink fresh because you don't want your hops to be bright in your face.
Right.
But like wheat wines, barley wines, imperial stouts, you can age those out. And let the malts really kind of develop and really kind of taste.
And then they become more smoother.
And the actual ABV or alcohol by volume doesn't change. It just becomes easier to drink at that higher ABV.
It tastes like that. Must be the plum. It tastes kind of like mixed with a plum, like a cranberry-ish taste. That's what I really like.
That was delicious.
So that's probably the plums and raisin type thing mixed. I would assume
malt flavors.
All right, what are you gonna rate it?
I'm gonna rate it a 9.
Nice. She's on 9.
Dude, that's good.
I'm gonna give that
I seriously have had
strong 8 though. I'm not a big barley wine fan, but
and you have to admit,
excellent.
the same barley ones I tried, you didn't like at all.
I couldn't even drink.
You couldn't even
a couple
drink
of them
them.
I couldn't even drink. They were just way too strong for my taste buds.
And I mean, not
But other people's taste buds are different, so they might like it.
I mean, when you get
I think that would satisfy all people around all day.
Well, we've enjoyed coming here. We had a great time tasting all the beers. They're all 9, so I'm telling you, that's good. That's awesome.
They're
so
all
we enjoyed it. It was excellent. All the beers were terrific, and he was a great host,
head brewer.
great brewer.
Totally enjoyed being with him.